Hey everybody, my name's Justin and this is my one season review of my 2019 Burton Stepon boot and binding system. Specifically, this is the Burton Photon, which is their mid-tier boot. So just to give you a little bit of background on me and my experience, I've been snowboarding since I was 14. Granted, I do live in Maryland, so it's not like I live at a mountain or anything like that, but I would say I'm at an intermediate level. When I go to a mountain on the East Coast, I can typically do whatever runs I would like to do, and then when I go out to the West Coast, I try and just stay under double blacks because I don't want to die. And occasionally I'll go in a terrain park and hit a jump, but for the most part, I'm just going down the mountain. So far with this setup, I've ridden on ice, I've ridden in powder, I've ridden in slush. I feel like I have a pretty good feel for the system. And before this system, several years I rode in those slip-on binding systems where I think it's made from GNU, where the back folds the reverse way and then you slide in and pop it up. I've been riding on alternate bindings for probably 10 years now or so. With that said, I'll say that I love this system, but I do want to start on the negatives because I'm sure that's what everybody's interested in. The first thing is the standard clicking noise that you get from the front. Basically, the way that these bindings work is you have a clip in the rear and then you have these two clips on the front of the boot, and you step into the back of the binding and then you push your toe down into the front. And these two front attachment points develop a clicking noise over time. So when I first got them, for the first few months of riding them, they didn't have any type of noise. I'm not exactly sure what causes it, but I had a different pair of boots before this. Same thing, just a different size. And the same thing happened with those boots. Which brings me to my next point. The sizing on these is a little weird. So on a normal Burton boot, I wear an 11, but on these, I wear an 11.5. What happens is the cleats here on the side where it connects to the binding, you basically have part of a binding built into the shoe. And the cleat on this side can really dig into your feet if your foot is just slightly wider than a normal person's foot. With that said, I have like a somewhat wide foot. Like on dress shoes, if it goes from like A to D, I would be like a C on width, so just past the middle line. Because of that, I had to go a size up. But the hard part about these was, when I ordered them, they instantly got sold out. So I ordered an 11 and I couldn't get an 11.5. Basically what I did is I ordered them early last year, like October or November, and then I couldn't get a replacement pair until like January when they came out with a second batch. So I sold my old pair on eBay. I wasn't one of those guys that sold their boots for $1,000 because I didn't feel like that was fair. So I just sold them for what the new boot cost me in total. So screw all those guys that buy them up and resell them for double. The third thing that I don't really like about these is when you put them on a slope, it's harder to do than a normal binding. Basically, when you're on a normal binding and you're on some type of decline, you can just sit down and strap your bindings in. With these, you really have to push each foot in to be able to get them to lock in. So when you're on an incline and you're trying to push your toes in, and that's actually the hard part, is pushing your toes in, everything wants to go forward. So you kind of have to get your feet in and then do like a weird jump and kind of land on your toes and hope you don't hit your toe side too hard and fall forward. But I haven't really figured that part out. That specific spot on an incline is harder to do than a normal binding. It also is a little hard to take off sometimes. You have a lever here on the back that you pop up and then you pop your heel out of and then kind of twist your leg to pop the front cleats out of. I find that normal snowboarders can get out of their bindings better because you just Usually I have to be stopped to be able to get out of it. And again, if you're stopped on an incline, it can be pretty hard to get out. Those are really my only few issues with riding these. Some things that I really like about these is this is my first BOA boot. So having the convenience of a BOA system is awesome. Obviously that's not exclusive to Stepon, but this does have the Imprint 3 liner in the mid-tier boot, and that's also super comfortable. I used to have some head boots before this and they would actually get really hot. And this is just like a perfect in between of comfort, insulation, and breathability. And you can heat form these to your feet. So I went to a shop and got that done, and that made them even more comfortable. Another thing that I really like about these is obviously the main point of them, which is the speed that you can put them on and the ease that you can put them on. You don't have to bend over, you don't have to be sitting down and getting up every time. You just feel a lot less tired at the end of the day. The speed convenience is that my wife is a skier, so being able to just get off a lift and press down twice and get them on is super nice as compared to making her wait and doing it the traditional way. And as far as rideability goes, I don't see any difference between these and my old GNU slip-on bindings. I don't know what they're actually called. I am only an intermediate rider, so I'm not like a professional rider here to tell you like, oh, the toe side feels maybe 75% of a normal binding or something like that. I don't really have that much feel, I would say, but I would say that it hasn't affected my riding for the negative at all. If anything, I feel more locked in when I'm riding these. And I think part of the reason for that is I'm pretty tall, I'm 6'2", and being able to be locked in on the top part of my boot so I don't feel like I'm swaying is, I feel like easier on these because of the frame that's built into them. I just feel like they're more rigid in the boot itself, so I feel more locked in the boot. And then once you get used to trusting the binding, I mean, there's no, like I said, I haven't had any issues with them coming out or the stability or anything like that. So my table definitely just fell over. This is a coffee table that is not actually high enough to do a review. So I have them on little stands and those stands just tipped over. So another thing that I really like is the design. I like minimal things, and I feel like this binding just looks way more minimal than a normal binding on there with like the straps kind of hanging out. So I like the way that it looks. I like the way that it stores, just kind of nothing really going on. On the mountain, I've never had anybody notice that I have step-on boots on, so they don't really stand out, but just the overall design aesthetic I like. So as I said in the beginning, I definitely recommend this system. I would say it's for people who are looking for the convenience of not having to stop when they're up at the top and just be able to go down, or for older people who can't really bend over. And for me, the convenience is the most important thing. Hence why before that, I had the slip-in bindings. I think that if you're out there looking at it, just make sure that you go a size up. If you have wide feet, if you have narrow feet, don't worry about it. The normal sizing will work. And also just be aware of the clicking, although they may have fixed that in 2020, but they didn't fix that from 2018 to 2019 models. So who knows? But I hope you enjoyed the review. I'm probably going to be doing more of my snowboarding gear here soon. And if you liked this review, make sure you give me a thumbs up and let me know what you liked or didn't like about it. Thanks, have a good one.